Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Davis CSL. Good morning, All Is Well Ministry. I understand that we are embodying all is well, and by embodying all is well, we are changing the world. And Bobby said some amazing things in her treatment this morning. One of them, I can't believe she said it over and over again because I think I was supposed to pay attention. I think we all were, was listen, listen, listen. And today we're going to be talking about what comes before visioning. And if visioning is about anything, it is certainly about listen, listen, listen to that incredible source that we are all a part of and are sometimes, more often maybe than we'd like to admit, too busy to connect with. Visioning gives us this conscious, I was going to say constant, I suppose it could be, this conscious way to connect into that place where we are part of what we are here to be and do. Actually, Michael Beckwith says visioning is about the evolution of who and what you are as a unique, individualized emanation of source, and what you have come on the planet to learn, express, and contribute. And so today I want to talk about what comes before visioning. I'm having the most awesome experience. I am currently, just started last week, facilitating a book study on the book itself, right? Michael Beckwith's, I don't know how to hold this up right. Here we go. Life Visioning. Michael Beckwith's Life Visioning. And so I have read part of this book and we have studied part of this book, and it actually talks about 5 foundational qualities for visioning. And maybe they don't necessarily come before visioning, but they lay the context, they lay the groundwork for kind of the headspace, the heart space, the embodiment space that helps us be most receptive to what he calls the life visioning process, to the vision for our life and to the vision for our world. Even before we talk about that, this book has an amazing foreword by Bruce Lipton. Now, who's familiar at all with Bruce Lipton's work? Okay. I have not read, I think his most famous book is The Biology of Belief. I've heard about it from friends for years. This foreword to Life Visioning is almost worth reading just on its own. As a matter of fact, if you go on Amazon and you just get the sample, you can read the foreword. The foreword by Bruce Lipton talks powerfully about where our world is today. And I'm going to ask you where you think today was when he actually wrote this. So we're going to talk about Bruce Lipton's foreword, where the world is today. We're going to talk about the conscious and subconscious mind, because that's a lot of what Bruce Lipton talks about. We're going to talk about the 5 foundational qualities for visioning. And towards the end, we will move into the feeling space that Michael Beckwith says is essential for visioning. And we won't have time for visioning itself, of course, but I will lead you in a brief treatment or meditation or whatever you want to call it that Ernest Holmes has in Science of Mind. So that's kind of what today looks like. So be ready for a really fun, deepening ride. Bruce Lipton's first paragraph says, "Crisis ignites evolution. The collective nature of current global crises is a clear sign that humanity is poised on the brink of a radical evolutionary upheaval. Exciting research from the frontiers of science emphasize that we are each and all active participants in what will amount to be the greatest adventure in human history, conscious evolution." Now, when do you think he wrote this? Because doesn't that sound like today? Right? This was probably written in 2011. The book was published in 2012. So Life Visioning was published in 2012. And I believe Lipton's intro is from 2011. And we are still on that course where, I don't know if any of you see any crisis in the world, or if you're really good at just turning to the truth all the time, but sometimes there is crisis that beckons our hearts. There's a current thing that felt like crisis to me last night when I made the mistake of opening Facebook, and it was almost bedtime, and I went and cried on my husband's shoulder. So these crises, they touch our hearts, and I always like to speak from a place of truth. And I think all of us strive to practice that. And at the same time, there are these opening moments, and some of them are huge, like the war with Ukraine and Russia, and maybe, you know, whatever opinion you may have about the Supreme Court's decision, and the fact that we just celebrated Juneteenth. And as I will talk about later, here we are more than 150 years after that actual freeing of the slaves, still kind of working through some of those issues. You know, here we are in Pride Month. That is wonderful that we have a Pride Month. And we're still working through those issues too. We're working to become more and more of what we can be as humanity towards this conscious evolution that Bruce Lipton talks about. So Lipton talks about the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, and it's like taking Ernest Holmes and laying some science around it, because now there's all this brain research that didn't exist all those decades ago when Ernest Holmes was writing about the conscious mind and the subconscious or subjective mind. Lipton tells us, and Ernest Holmes would say the same thing, that our conscious mind has creative intelligence. It is creative. It has the freedom to choose. It's where our free will lies. That point of power is always in the present moment. We know that, right? The point of power is in this present moment. So if our conscious mind is taking a vacation to Tahiti or the Arctic Circle or wherever, if the conscious mind is thinking about, you know, going through the list, anybody else have a list, you know, the list of all the things I have to do, my worries about tomorrow, and my, did I say the right thing about the past? That happened to me the other night. Did I say the right thing? Did someone hear that wrong? Of course, it turned out to be okay. But when my conscious mind is busy analyzing or imagining or fearing the past, or imagining or fearing or analyzing the future, my conscious mind is not here running the show. And in fact, Bruce Lipton says our conscious mind is only running the show about 5% of the time. So I did some quick math, 60 minutes in an hour, 5% of the time, that's 3 minutes every hour. That is not a whole lot. The other 57 minutes of the time, there's really good news. It's sort of good news, bad news. We do not cease to exist, right? We don't cease to exist because we have a subconscious mind. And our subconscious mind is this incredible supercomputer that is 1,000,000 times more powerful. Wait for it, 1,000,000 times is what Bruce Lipton says, Dr. Lipton, 1,000,000 times more powerful than the conscious mind. But it does not operate the same way. It operates based on all of the programs and beliefs that have been put into it. And so if our conscious mind takes a vacation, which is pretty normal, then we keep going because our subconscious mind continues to create the circumstances of our life based on whatever is programmed into it. Most of the programs that go into it until we start making conscious different decisions are laid by the age of 6. Lipton tells us that means they are not even really us, right? It's not really even us who is running our lives. It is what we learned from our parents, from our, maybe our parents' friends or our friends, from our communities, maybe from our church at that age, but whatever was around us. He does not refer to, at least in this intro, he does not refer to what we call race consciousness. But I think we also know in science of mind that the subconscious mind connects with all of that race consciousness that has been established over hundreds and thousands of years of human history, which might be from a trauma, a human race trauma. It might be from an enlightenment. So it can also be really wonderful. And it might be something like, oh, well, there's a volcano going off, and so there's a god of the volcano, and I better go appease it and make it happy so it quits doing its thing. So we can have all sorts of beliefs coming at us from this race consciousness. Life visioning, Bruce Lipton says, is one of, and let me step aside from that. We typically call it visioning. And Michael Beckwith calls it the life visioning process, LVP. And he has I believe it's a trademark, a little symbol next to that. So life visioning is what I've been calling it. And I kind of like putting that word life in there because it is the vision for our lives. It is the vision for our community's life, like you guys are doing right now for your spiritual center. It is the visioning for our world, whatever visioning we want to engage in. And if you wanted to follow further down this path, CSL actually has a curriculum for visioning. So they have a class, and that class in each, I looked it over, and it's a fabulous looking class where in each session you do some kind of visioning, but some of it's for you, and some of it, some of it's individual and personal, and some of it does move out into the community and into the world. I think that would be a fabulous practice. So our powerful subconscious mind. Now here's what Ernest Holmes says, just in case you think he says something different. It was amazing when I opened Science of Mind to see he was saying the exact same thing all those years ago. He says, what we know about subjective mind proves that it is unconscious of time, knows neither time nor process, and knows only the completion, the answer. Cosmic creation is from idea, so that's the conscious mind, right, to object. It does not know anything about process. Process is involved in it, but not consciously. So this subconscious mind has really no intelligence except both Ernest Holmes and Bruce Lipton refer to the kind of intelligence that knows how to create from what's been put into it. So it knows, think of it as like a whole bunch of little bots. You've got all of your incredible assistants who are ready to put into your world, my world, exactly what we order. And so when we order fear, or I will say a loving family member this morning said about something, this is a common phrase, right? When we say a common phrase, he said, oh, I shouldn't have said a gender, sorry. People are idiots. And if we think people are idiots, if we say it unconsciously, we are creating that, we're giving that order to our subconscious mind, right? We get to experience that. So the conscious mind is the one that knows past, present, and future. It can go to the past and learn from it. For example, we can have gratitude for something that occurred in the past. And that gratitude, then we can bring that feeling of gratitude into the present. And that can be a conscious, powerful way of using our conscious mind's ability to know the past and the present and the future. Meanwhile, the subconscious mind is puttering along with no sense of past, present, or future. So whatever's in it, it doesn't know that, oh, in this situation today, where I've been cut off in traffic or whatever, it is not the same as a lion attack, and I shouldn't have that same response. It doesn't know that what happened 50 years ago or 5 years ago is not something it needs to operate from right now. It doesn't have that discernment. The discernment is conscious mind. Give me one moment, please. Why is that important? How does that connect to visioning? We can rewrite our beliefs. Lipton says we have the ability to rewrite disempowering beliefs, and in the process, take control of our lives. He says that life visioning is one of the most effective tools for doing this. And he says, as we recognize our ability to change our programming, we have evolved from passive victims to conscious co-creators. This will help our world emerge from darkness in what will amount to a consciousness-based, spontaneous evolution for humans by humans. We can access that through visioning or life visioning, just as you are accessing it through visioning for your center right now. So let's move on and talk about Michael Beckwith, because he's the man when it comes to visioning, right? He had some experiences that led to the life visioning process. And let's start this by talking about resistance to change. Do any of you ever have an issue with resistance to change, or are you pretty good? Okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one. I used to think that, maybe I was pretty flexible and I could be open to change. And then I had to really do some self-awareness and realize how resistant I can be. Michael Beckwith apparently has some of this same quality, or at least did. He had this really good life and he didn't want to change. He had graduated from ministerial school with Religious Science International, one of the precursors to CSL. And he was on their faculty. He was teaching practitioners, he was seeing clients, and I think he was also coaching. And so he was having a good life. He did not have to work weekends. Think about ministers for a second. They're working weekends, I'm just saying. And he was a young father, and it was pretty great not to work weekends. And there was a center he had spoken at several times that wanted him to candidate to be their senior minister. And reluctantly, he went ahead and did it. He put his name in the hat and he went and did whatever you do, did the sample talks or whatever. And he later found that the committee who was responsible for forwarding information to the board of trustees never forwarded his information because they were concerned that an African-American minister would be problematic in Orange County. He did a little forgiveness work. He probably did a lot of forgiveness work. And at the same time, he knew that, he knew a lot of these people, right? There were many loving people in this congregation. So I don't think there was anything in him that thought it was the whole group or anything like that. But he did his forgiveness work. He withdrew his name from the candidacy and he returned to what was honestly a pretty good life, the life that he enjoyed. And yet, whenever he went into his meditation, there would be this voice telling him it was his destiny to become a minister. There are various kinds of ministries, various kinds of ministers. Not all of them have a church or a center, not all of us, I should say. But he was feeling called to do this. And I love this quote. As a matter of fact, I feel chills right now as I start to read it to you. He says, "Eventually, I surrendered. And when I did, I became the yes to what was seeking to emerge in, through, and as my life. It was no longer possible to retreat into any false humility about not being worthy, adequately spiritually prepared, or any other excuses." And I think, maybe I should just speak for myself, but I think there are times when we can retreat, when I can retreat, I can hide behind this egoic state of false humility, or like maybe I'm not ready, whether it's adequately spiritually prepared or any other excuses. And I can see how he designed this life visioning process, these questions that we go through, the 5 or so questions, to help take us into a place of acceptance with the sacred yes, to open us to that connection, and to get rid of that false humility with that question about what gifts and talents and capacities do you already bring to this vision. He designed that question specifically to bring us to a place of knowing we already have what it takes. We already have what it takes. And that was in the sacred readings this morning. It is already within us. So he called together a team of what he called visioneers. Don't you love it? Visioneers. So you guys are all visioneers now because you're doing visioning, to begin their first group visioning. And he does tell more of that story and what steps he led them through. So what leads to change, right? There's this resistance around change. You can see Michael Beckwith didn't want to change. Sometimes I don't want to change. He has a little subsection in his book called Pain Pushes Until the Vision Pulls. And similarly, someone else we studied, Father Richard Rohr, says that the 2 paths to transformation are either through great suffering, which is pain, right? Or great love, great suffering and great love. So Beckwith says, when we choose to remain stagnant, pain will be our companion, not to inflict hurt, but to transmit a message that we are living in too small an inner world, We haven't yet recognized that pain's message is that we are ready to take the next step in our evolution. You have taken an incarnation to awaken the enlightened expression of who you are. And while you're gracing the planet, to deliver your talents, gifts, and skills as your unique contribution to the world. The purpose of visioning is not simply about the narrow confines of personal fulfillment. It is an expansion of consciousness into the realization of your true self. So let's go into those 5 foundational qualities, shall we? He says there's 5 foundational qualities, but not to worry about being perfect, because we don't have to get them all right. This is another ego trap, right? We don't have to get them all right before we do life visioning, whether it's for ourselves or our communities. The main point is to start right where you are, confident that you are not alone in your journey, that you are accompanied by an ineffable presence called grace. This ineffable, undescribable, immaterial, this presence called grace is always with you on your visioning path. And as we vision, we open ourselves to it, to that. I'll read you the 5 steps and then we'll go into each one. So the first is intention or willingness. The second one is receptivity. The third, everybody's favorite word, surrender. The fourth, everybody's other favorite term, self-discipline. And the fifth, gratitude. So the first is intention or willingness. Intention or willingness means finding your why. Now, Michael Beckwith, as a groundwork for this, he says that a lot of people will go into having a goal or having an intention without really understanding why they're going to get there. So they're just, I am going to, I don't know, think of a thing. I'm going to open a healing center. But why are you going to open a healing center? Is it because it'll make your ego feel good? Is it because you want to help people? Is it because you want to make a lot of money? I mean, we can have a lot of different reasons for wanting to do anything, even a very noble goal. And there's nothing wrong with making a lot of money. So I'm not trying to say that's bad. So people often start heading for this intention without having already captured the vision of what is theirs to do. He says, when we're willing to sit with ourselves long enough to understand the motivation behind our intention, then our intention is empowered by this clarity. So that means sitting in visioning empowers our intention. And these days, we call this finding our why, but it's not always easy to find our why. It's a great high-level term that there's a lot of business stuff out there about right now. Visioning actually gives us a way, a path to find our why, to find what that is seeking to emerge. This intention or willingness includes stepping back and being open to the vision of who and what we really are. And he says willingness is about being patient with ourselves during the visioning process until that aha moment when we realize that's it, I've caught the vision. Don't be surprised if what's revealed through your willingness to get out of the way is greater than you dared to imagine for yourself. When our intention to surrender is sincere, obstacles move aside and we come into attunement with our vision. So that is the first foundational quality for visioning. And the second is receptivity. And receptivity is really what he calls the sacred yes. The last step of visioning is to open to the sacred yes and to declare it that, yes, I accept this vision, even if we are in a place of uncertainty or nervousness, or we don't want to, or whatever. It is to open ourselves to that place where we are willing to be receptive, where we open to that sacred yes. He says receptivity is an open, spacious mind and heart. It clears the way for deeper knowing below the surface mind. And it is like returning to childlike innocence, open and receptive to limitless possibilities. We say yes to our lives, to the truth that we are and that we came here to be. We say yes to being the next greatest vision of the grandest version of who we really are, which is Neil Donald Walsh's words in Conversations with God. The third one is surrender. Acceptance of and surrender to what is revealed. And I don't know about you, there have been times in the past when I've had trouble with the word surrender, that sort of letting go of control, like what am I surrendering to? And, you know, I'm connected with the one, so why do I need to surrender? Do you hear my ego speaking in any of that? A little bit of fear. Surrender is an expression of trust, a way of saying, I am available to what wants to emerge through me. I give my consent to it. There's that yes again. And Bobby this morning in her treatment, remember at the end where she said, yes, yes, yes. She was in that sacred yes space for all of us. In surrender, we know that we are cradled by existence. We are ultimately safe and secure regardless of what enters our experience. And we are preparing to give birth to a deeper dimension of ourselves. Surrender frees us from attachment because it is a declaration that we are willing to release from our experience the mental, emotional, and behavioral habit patterns that no longer serve us. It is a wider opening that invites new insights, intuitive perceptions, expanded goals. And from there, we move into the fourth foundational quality, which is self-discipline. Now, self-discipline is probably the one that in this book study that I'm facilitating, people loved this concept because self-discipline has such a bad rap. He says self-discipline or discipline itself gets confused with self-control. He calls self-control an ego state where maybe we want to look good, we don't want our image tarnished. And so we have all these protective behaviors. We have self-control, and it feels very rigid and not super exciting. He says self-discipline is different. There is a freedom in discipline. Discipline applies discernment to our life choices and allows us to change direction in mid-course if required. Control is a form of mental bondage, whereas discipline is a form of freedom. A disciplined mind is open to the influx of inner guidance and puts it into action. And how does this tie into visioning? In two ways. One is when it comes to our spiritual practices, discipline is the willingness to do what it takes to wake up because enlightened living is our priority in life. And when applied to visioning, discipline is what keeps us in our seat when we want to look away or even run away from what is being revealed to us about us. I think Beckwith knows that one firsthand. I think there was a part of him that wanted to run away until he said yes. And I think that's true. You know, we talk about these very big visions, but it can also be, I've asked each person in our book study to pick an area of their life, and it could be career, it could be finance, it could be health, it could be a relationship. I think one person picked family, to vision about. And we are doing a visioning at the end of each book study session so that people can explore what their vision, what is the highest vision for my life around my family relationships or for my health or whatever it is. So it doesn't have to be this incredible life purpose. It can be whatever we're working on in the moment. And fifth, last but not least, is our favorite, gratitude. Gratitude that we already have all that we need to take the next step in our evolution. Gratitude that softens the heart, opens the mind, and causes even seemingly ordinary things to become sacred. We see and experience life's magic. Gratitude is a prayer that acknowledges the gift of existence. Gratitude opens our inner sight. Gratitude opens our inner sight to the fact that we have already been provided all the gifts of existence. And so these are the 5 foundational qualities. He says, just practice these steps as part of your daily routine to make your visioning more powerful. Get up with gratitude and practice it throughout your day. And notice the hand of grace easing your way just here and there throughout your day. So, as with anything, practice, discipline takes us where we want to be. And I would say that there is one more prerequisite, and that's where we're going to go right now, and that is the loving heart space. In order to lay the foundation for an actual visioning session, visioning practice, Beckwith says he starts with 15 minutes, or says to start with 15 minutes. I'm doing 10 in my book study, 15 minutes of meditation. And in that 15 minutes, what you're seeking to do is to open to that loving heart space. And this creates the receptivity to our intuition. So I have a wonderful way to do this, and it has to do with remembering a happy event. So to close this talk, we are going to go there right now, and I'll take you into that space, and then I will read this wonderful short meditation from Ernest Holmes' Science of Mind, page, hang on, it's in here somewhere, page 293. All right. Close your eyes if that's comfortable for you. And breathe in this space, this heart space. And if you want, use your left hand and gently tap your heart a couple of times to remind you of where you are in your heart space. And feel that opening and softening of that heart space as you focus on it. And right now, remember a happy event. Remember a happy event and allow that memory, that happiness to fill you up right here and right now. And as you remember and feel this event, focus on your heart space. Feel how good it feels. Allow your heart to answer you. Your heart is a being of divine bliss and divine love. Feel how wonderful that feels. It is an incredible feeling of bliss, of love, of happiness. I know I am now at the threshold of all good, wisdom, and truth. All the good I can embody is now mine. I have only to open the portals of my soul and accept that which is ready to express through me. I expect fully and emphatically the answer to my prayer today. Right now, do I possess the thing I so greatly desire? I remove my fear of lack and negation, for it is the only barrier which stands in the way of my experience of good. I alone can remove it, and I do remove it now. In this moment, my good comes to me, enough and to spare, to give and to share. I can never be exhausted. My good can never be depleted, because that source from which my good comes is inexhaustible. Today, in this moment, the law responds to my thought. My word is one of affirmation, rising from the knowledge that the good, the enduring, and the true are eternalities in my experience. I cannot be apart from that which is my good. My good is assured me by God, the indwelling essence of my life. You may come back when you're ready to this space. And remember that we are already equipped with what it takes to live the highest vision for our life. All we have to do is tap into it, to discover it within ourselves and put it into action. Visioning shines the light upon our inner treasure house, illuminating our natural wisdom, joy, compassion, intelligence, love, tranquility, creativity, and generosity. So this week, as you practice surrender as trust that there is a higher purpose and a good that is happening always, as you practice discipline in the ways that bless you and bless your life, as you practice gratitude and receptivity and all of these foundational qualities, willingness, as you practice all of this, remember, you are one, you are powerful, there is a power for good in the universe, and you can use it, and you are using it all the time, and you are a blessing to the world. Thank you.